So today we're talking about how we show up online. And I'll probably focus a little bit more on LinkedIn, but it's not exclusive to LinkedIn. First, I want to share the 5 areas I spend time when I'm coaching an executive. And this executive may be anywhere in the world because these tips are not just for American users. We know that people are using social media all over the world. LinkedIn even now has translation available online, so you can see profiles in different languages. So please remember, whether you're in India or Boston or South America, that the tips I'm sharing with you are universal. You'll adapt them to the cultural norms of your community and where you are, but these are not US specific. First, when you show up online, you're showing people your brand. Your brand is who you are. It's how you communicate what you care about, what you stand for, what's important to you, and why other people should want to know you and hopefully send referrals and endorsements and opportunities your way. So it's really important, if you think about your reputation, that you're clear about what you want to communicate. So know that when you're showing up online, whether it's with your friends on Facebook or your college roommates on Instagram or your professional network on LinkedIn, you're showing people your brand. You're telling them who you are and what you stand for. It's really important when we think about social media to know who our audience is. And your audience may be different depending on the platform. So, for instance, my audience on LinkedIn is going to be my current clients, prospective clients, the media, influencers in different market segments around the world. On Instagram, my audience might be my friends and people I went to school with and my kids and people that are, part of my family or my social network, my personal network. But I'm never going to be different. I'm always going to be the same person. I'm going to show up a little bit differently depending on the platform. But knowing who your audience is allows you to modify your message to meet their needs. Because if you've listened to my work on target audiences, we have to know what our audience wants to know about us, right? Maybe they want to know that we're experienced or credentialed or have an amazing track record in our industry. But they also need to feel something. And building that emotional connection with your target audience is really important on social media. This is not about just pushing your resume out there, but it's understanding what that audience needs to care about, needs to connect with you on a personal level. So imagine you're a job seeker and your target audience is a set of companies in your community that you're looking to potentially do work with. You would need to know, what are the jobs they're hiring for? What do they need to know about your background and your expertise and your influence to be able to compete for those jobs? But what does that audience need to feel? What is their culture? What is the experience of that company? And how can you line up through your online positioning that you're the same type of person and therefore would be an ideal or attractive candidate for them? We know our target audience. We know what they need to know. We know what they need to feel. And then we go forward with our own positioning. Just positioning yourself to everyone out there is where people tend to look a little generic. So know who your audience is. Third, set a strategy. This can be a lot of time to be on social media. I know myself, it feeds into my personality brilliantly, and I spend a lot of time on social media, all different platforms, engaging in all different ways. But if I didn't have a strategy, the idea of second guessing myself would consume me. Or I could post something that lands me in hot water the next day with clients or potential clients or my team. So having a strategy means you're thoughtful and intentional about how you want to be positioned. And one of the pieces of advice I always encourage people when they think about their strategy is not only how do you want to come across, how do you want people to see you, and how authentic do you want to be, but what are the guardrails? What are the things you won't talk about? What are the things that fall outside of your brand such that they don't come up in your conversation and you don't feel compelled to have to compete or converse in those conversations? I'll give you an example. There's a few things I don't talk about online, and you won't see me tagged or post, comments around. First, anything to do with alcohol or addiction or drugs, I don't comment on that. Politics, and religion or faith. Those are things I typically do not comment on or get tagged in or enter into discussion. They're not germane to my brand. And I have clients on so many different coming into those conversations from so many different perspectives that kind of out of respect for them too, I don't go there. Those are some boundaries that I set up for myself. I actually authored an article that you might find helpful. And I think Sabrina, who is helping me with today's conversation, is going to pop that link up and put it in the chat. And it's what do you need to post and how much do you need to share online and still be considered authentic? We can be authentic. We can let people know who we are and what we care about and what's important to us, and not feel compelled to have to comment and post and share and engage on every topic, particularly if that topic is outside of our brand. And I strongly encourage executives to think about that. With your strategy, think about frequency and cadence. How often are you going to post online? What's the tempo? What's the cadence? Because if I see you really active for a couple weeks and then you go away, well, now I don't understand what's happened. If it's once a week, be consistent with it. Have a system or a set of frequency metrics that you either put in your calendar, put alarms on your phone, or just kind of get into the habit of making sure that you show up consistently and frequently, whatever that looks like for you, on social media. Think about the tone and the posturing. That's also part of your strategy. If you're a super professional, conservative, sophisticated individual and your brand reflects that, then I'm going to be questioning what's going on if I see you posting cartoons and things that are a little more casual. If you're a very relaxed and creative and expressive individual, then show me things that are consistent with that tone. I get to learn more about you. So your strategy really drives all these touch points. The next thing that's really important, so my fourth point that I share is online positioning should really include more than just about you. So here we're talking about your online positioning, but I'm now going to encourage you to think about other people and not just your target audience, but how you engage with them. So are you sharing information? Are you sharing insight? Are you giving away your intellectual knowledge? Are you giving away your thoughts and your insights about your craft? That's a way that people actually start to connect with you. They're benefiting from your content. Absolutely. They may never convert into a client or hire you, but there's an element of goodwill and there's an element of social media that requires us to give as well as receive. So consider whether you're sharing ideas, you're sharing content, you're sharing links to things that you find valuable. Add your own spin on it, add your own perspective, but be somebody who is generous with content. Celebrate the success of others. We're seeing so many people celebrate new jobs, promotions, successes in their lives, babies, marriages, whatever. Celebrate that with them. This again isn't putting the focus on you, but it's showing your generosity. It's showing that you understand the community that is social media. And finally, then promote and sell yourself, right? This is about self-marketing. So if you're sharing information, you're sharing content, you're giving things away, you're celebrating the success of others, then I'm going to be more open to hearing what you have to offer and how I might buy from you or hire you or engage with you in some type of a professional relationship. If it's only promotion, me, look what I can do and here's what it costs, that tends to sound more like advertising. Networking, social media is about relationship building. So think about that blend of sharing information, celebrating and endorsing and appreciating others, and also selling. Finally, the last thing, authenticity is the name of the game. We used to have people airbrush our photos and Photoshop everything, and I think there's still some people who do that, but that isn't really what people are looking for today. And I think the pandemic really shifted our perspective on that. We want to see real people. We want to know what's really going on, and we want to hear you speak in your voice. Authenticity is critical. But as you may have heard me say before, authenticity is not the same thing as transparency. Being authentic means that you share who you are and that you're genuine and offering the truth when you tell me what you care about and what you're interested in and what you know how to do. But it doesn't mean you need to tell me everything. On any platform, you do not have an obligation to share every hope and dream and fear and rash you've ever had. There are a lot of people sort of pressuring others right now to tell us what you think about this topic. Tell us what you think about this important news that came out or this development. If it's not in your brand, if it's not something you are comfortable speaking on, or it's outside of those boundaries you set for yourself, I believe as a personal brand strategist, you do not have to comment. You don't want to share pictures of your children on Facebook? You don't have to. You don't want to talk about trauma that you survived early in your life? You don't have to. We can still be real people and let people get to know us and feel connected because we want to feel that same way with them. But I don't have to know every deep, dark secret or the things that you choose to keep private. Once you put them online, you're making them public. You're giving them out to the world. You don't get to pull them back. So be really strategic and thoughtful about how and what you're sharing online. Now, I'm going to move over to talking about LinkedIn for just a moment because we're all on LinkedIn. That's how we heard about this program, most likely. And LinkedIn has really grown in to being a global professional platform for us to connect, for us to share information, for us to celebrate each other, and for us to promote ourselves. Now, there are some areas where LinkedIn has become more tolerant with letting people share personal stories, personal triumphs, personal challenges. And the community is sort of self-policing that. So if the community feels it's gotten too personal, then perhaps they'll say, hey, this really belongs on Facebook, right? This isn't what I expect to see when I log on to onto LinkedIn. But LinkedIn is a fabulous place to have conversation. Ask a question. See who in your network or your connection of networks or followers has the answer or has more insight for you. Ask questions, offer insight, whether it's in groups or on your timeline or someone else's update. If you've got insight to a question or idea that's been posed, offer some insight. Other people seeing that are learning more about you. And whether or not they become a connection, they can become a follower. Connections are different than followers. Sometimes they overlap, but you can have a lot more followers than you do connections. The networking component of LinkedIn is mind-blowing. I'll share with you, honestly, most of my new work comes through LinkedIn. Either somebody has seen a LinkedIn learning course, or they've looked at my profile, or they've followed my content, and they reach out to me. So for me, LinkedIn is a fabulous channel for new opportunities. Even if you're looking for a job, or you're just looking to expand your influence or expand your reach, LinkedIn is fabulous for networking. Be clear about who you want to network with, how you want them to find you, and what you want them to know, and then set out for networking. Sourcing new opportunities, B2B, B2C opportunities, fabulous. I'm doing a lot of work with global companies right now who are looking to use LinkedIn as a platform to reach their consumers, are looking to reach other networking influencers who can help in lead generation, in market development, and market curation. So to think that LinkedIn is just a social network, it's way beyond that. It's also a great source of information. I'll go on LinkedIn sometimes and I'll find links to articles that somehow I missed, or a new trend, or somebody's video, a new TED Talk that might show up on LinkedIn. That's where I'm getting a lot of my information. I always have to vet the information, and I encourage you to do the same before you ever share something. make sure you've read the whole article. Make sure you've watched the whole video. If you've read my book, Control the Narrative, I share examples in there about people who shared content that they hadn't yet fully vetted because it was so exciting and they wanted to be one of the first to share that news. And it was not what they thought it was. So be sure you actually look. Yes, thank you, Sabrina. She's put up a link to Control the Narrative. What a fabulous book. But LinkedIn is really where we're coming together. We're getting information like this, right? So here I am just sharing my expertise with you with no expectation because it's part of my brand. Think about how you can do more of that. And even though there's no expectation, I am positioning myself. I am building my brand. So it is a strategic part of my own marketing, my company marketing. All right. With the time left, I want to give you the 5 C's of building your brand, the 5 C's of ensuring your brand online works. Number 1, think about your content. Think about what you're sharing online. Is it focused? Is it placed correctly? Is your content put in the right format? If you're sharing it on Instagram, but the right audience for that is on LinkedIn, good content could get lost. If you're sharing content on LinkedIn that really belongs over on TikTok or Snapchat or one of the others, you're going to miss your target audience. Think about the content you're sharing and how it serves you. I'll give you an example. Let's say you want to be positioned as an innovative, creative leader in technology, in the technology industry, maybe even in a niche within technology. But I see you posting a lot of things about cooking and jogging and family. While I'm learning more about you, now all of a sudden I'm confused about how you want to be positioned. That isn't to say that you don't want to show people different sides of yourself, but give it context, right? So I could imagine if you had that positioning of an innovative and creative leader in technology and you share a cooking video, you could say something like, one of my passions is cooking. And in addition to being passionate about technology and innovation and new systems, I love to develop recipes because I actually see a lot of parallel between the work I do in technology and the work I do, or the time I spend cooking. So you're making the connection for people. You're not leaving it up to their hopefully brilliant, process of being able to connect those for you because they could misunderstand and all of a sudden really get confused about why you're sharing a cooking video. Number 2, pay attention to your connections. Your connections online matter. Now, again, people can follow you you're not connected to. That happens on Instagram. That happens on Twitter. It happens now on LinkedIn. But if you have a connection, meaning you have approved or you have initiated a connection and have connected with someone, make sure, first of all, you know the right people. Make sure you know people who are going to help you build your brand, whether those are influencers, decision makers, information sources, or cheerleaders. And if you want to read more about that, go over to my books because I talk a lot about that. You have to know the right people and they have to know you in the right way. So make sure you have the right connections. And then second, make sure you don't have connections that could actually depreciate your value. So every once in a while, I go through my connections on every platform. And if there's somebody that maybe has changed jobs and is in an industry that I don't have any bonding with, I don't have a connection to, or don't care to, or maybe I've seen them post things that make me a little uncomfortable, I'm going to question that connection and whether it's still valuable to me. This is strategic. This isn't friends and family. Friends and family, we choose and we have much more tolerance for it. This is online positioning. So who we know and who we're associated with online is really important. Number 3, confidence. It's really important that you come to the conversation online authentic but confident. So if you're authoring your own content, if you're sharing what your thoughts are, that's different than if all you're doing is sharing the ideas of other people. And if you're sharing the ideas of other people, but not telling us what you think about it or what position you take on that, then I see you more as an aggregator, not necessarily as a thought leader. And we want to know about you. So take a confident position. If there are topics that align with your brand, that you feel passionate about and strong about, it's okay to be bold. It's okay to take a confident external position as long as you're clear about the pros and cons of doing so. As long as you're clear and it's a choice, then be confident in how you communicate that. Number 4, be clear. This is not the place to try and figure out who you want to be in the world and how you want to be positioned. Because if there's too many moving parts, if there's too many back and forths and a little bit of this and a little bit of that, I get confused. I don't really know what I could go to you for or how I could refer you, how I could endorse you, how I could support you. So if you're not clear, I'm certainly not going to be clear. But if you're clear about the type of person that you are and the way you want to be perceived, I talk a lot about desired legacy or desired brand. When we think about the end goal and we have a sense of direction of how we want to be in this world and in our professional life and our personal life, then we're clear about how to make steps in that direction. We're clear about the kind of content that makes sense for us to post. We're more clear about the type of connections that are going to support our message and the direction we're going and the ones that could detract from that. So clarity can't be understated. It really can't. And it doesn't happen overnight. If you've been online for a while and maybe you haven't been very clear, it's okay to take a pause and get that clarity and start off again with a new direction. Consistency is really, really important. And personal branding has never been about perfection. It's never been about perfection because we can't be perfect. We're people, right? We're going to make mistakes. We're going to do things and we go, I wish I hadn't said that, or maybe I could have done that differently. But if you're consistently showing up online as the same person, people will forgive small infractions. And I'm using those words carefully because cancel culture and reputation risk is a real thing right now. And we have to be mindful. But if you consistently tell people what you care about, who you are, and how you want them to experience you, if you consistently demonstrate and act in accordance with your values, you earn that credibility that gives you a little bit of protection so that if there's a misstep, if you post something that's got a typo or you share something that you think afterwards, I probably shouldn't, and you take it down, there's enough content and context to support the positioning that you're going for. And therefore, you've got a little bit of insulation. It's not going to protect you if you make a major faux pas. But hopefully, if you're being strategic and you're thinking through your content and your connections and your confidence and all these other things, you're not going to make those major faux pas. It's usually people who don't think about those things that share something and then afterwards realize, everything just on my phone blew up and I'm getting text messages. So again, think about all of these different tools I've shared with you. Look across all of your social media. LinkedIn is very visible, but what you're sharing on Instagram, what you're sharing on Snapchat, what you're sharing on YouTube or Facebook, those also tell me something about you. Use the platforms for what they were designed, right? I'm going to be more casual on Instagram than I am perhaps on LinkedIn because Instagram is a more casual platform. I might share things that are more of a personal nature on Facebook about my family and my pets and vacations. I wouldn't share that on LinkedIn because Facebook is a more personal, casual platform. There's no such thing as private when it comes to online. There just isn't. Anybody can take a screenshot. Anybody can forward an email or a text message or a DM or an IM. So don't ever consider anything private. Protect your reputation. Drive your reputation and watch your online efforts really produce value. I'm just going to remind you, we're going to have fun on social media. We get so much value when we are strategic, when we are intentional, when we're thoughtful. So just have those filters and teach your kids this too. Oh, I do see we had a question. How can I make good content? Well, good content starts with a good idea of the direction, right? So what is the direction you want your brand to go? What kind of content would then support that? So I want to be known globally as an award-winning reputation management and personal branding specialist. So my content hangs off of that. I consider your brand almost like the trunk of a tree, and content is what hangs off of that. Your relationships hang off of that. But your content definitely fills in the branches and adds texture to who you are. So think about how you want to be positioned, and then just make sure your content supports that positioning. And if it doesn't naturally, in the example I shared about a tech person wanting to share cooking videos, then you make it perfectly clear with your audience how that connection actually works. I've enjoyed being with you today. I know I promised you a half hour of content. We're at the top of the hour. Wherever you are in the world, stay safe and healthy. And I hope I will see you again for my next session on August 10th, where I'll be live talking about transition personal branding for military community. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.